Our first one is Miss Sonya Williams. She's the vice chairperson of Prince George's County Public Schools, and she has taken on the leadership um, reign at the school board, and she also represents District 9, and the proposed school is going to be in her district, which is really our district because we all surround the school. And so this is not our first time having conversation with Ms. Williams. We may have different points of view, but sometimes at the end of the day, we just have to agree to disagree. So without further ado, Ms. Williams.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hazel. I so appreciate you. And I appreciate this opportunity to speak with you all. I try to be a very accessible board member, either by email or at my coffees that I have every third Saturday. I'm actually having one this Saturday, and it's been virtual since the pandemic, of course. But prior to that, I would have it every third Saturday, face-to-face at the Safeway in Brandywine, and where we would sit. And I think that it's so important that you have access to your leaders in an arena that's not formal, because sometimes it's easier for people to have open conversations without an agenda. And I bring that up because a lot of the conversation about the challenges, not only with the aging school system, but also with the overcrowding at Accokeek, is what precipitated this action that we are undergoing now. So let me start with, as a board member, our focus is to educate students in the best environment possible. We want to grow and create students that are active and engaged citizens in the community. And so that is our focus. The other thing that I offer to the school board is I have a background as a civil engineer with education and experience in development. And so with that, I'm able to get a little more engaged in the process and the actions to make sure that our staff meets the goal and we stay focused on that goal. And so I just wanted to put that in context so that you understand where I'm coming from. I'm really happy today because yesterday was the last day of school for students. And so we're into the summer. And so I'm so excited because this has been, the last 15 months has been just a real challenge on just operating a school system. The operation of the school system is not the board's responsibility. Our responsibility is to oversee the work, hold the superintendent accountable, and our biggest priority is the use of the money that our constituents entrust in us. We get about $2.3 billion, and that is a little over 60% of your taxpayer money from the state and the county when it comes to Prince George's County Public Schools. We are in charge of 60% of the money that you all put into the coffers of the county. And I take that very seriously. And so when we are talking about educating students in the best facilities possible, when I became a board member in 2014, I was surprised to find out how bad our schools were when it comes to the conditions and how they operate. We would get calls in the wintertime that there is no heat, so kids couldn't go to school, or they're learning in cold environments. In the summertime, kids would be learning in hot environments. And so as a civil engineer who's a project manager focused on development, I said, why does it take 10 years to go from the concept of a new school to opening the doors? That is way too long for us to build a new school. And so the other conversation that kept creeping up is the overcrowding at Accokeek Academy. And so as the conversation evolved, there was an opportunity for us to use what is known in the industry as a public-private partnership, and which is known as P3. when the conversation first started, it really was a timing, a solution for time. 10 years is too long to go from concept to opening doors. And so I started to have conversations with our staff, and it turned out that this is more a financial situation versus a timing situation, because capital dollars are considered a long-term funding resource. And so we can't use it as operating dollars. And so we had to figure out, how do we build schools quickly using funds that are available to us that we could not spend like operating dollars. And so as the solution evolved, it turned out that if we took certain schools offline and replaced them with new schools, those maintenance dollars that we use as operating dollars, meaning when we change the filter, fix a roof, come in and fix one of the AC units and things like that, that comes out of our operating dollars. So we found out that we could save about $10 million a year if we replace those old schools with new schools. And so the county said, if you can do that, we will match your dollars 2 to 1. So the county was able to fund us $20 million. And so we have a total of $30 million that we could spend in an operational type of dollar so that we could bring on these new schools. So that is sort of how we got to the P3 conversation. With $30 million a year that we could spend or pay a partner to design, build, and maintain our school buildings, how much could we afford? So we started to look at
Carter.
a mixture of school types, some high schools, some middle schools, some elementary schools. And then with that conversation going a little further, it turned out where our need was middle school. So that's how we ended up with 5 middle schools as the choice and 1 K-8 to help us deal with the overcrowding in Accokeek. So that's how we sort of got to where we are. And so as we were looking for locations, and I know you've seen on the news that we're having challenges in many of the areas where we are replacing old schools with new schools. Some schools we could build a school on the same land, so we didn't have a challenge. Other schools we could build on a different parcel and not have a challenge. But then there's some schools that we have to knock down and rebuild. And so there are challenges that we're having. In this area where the location has been chosen, we became aware of the water issue that you all have been dealing with for years. And so what we know as good neighbors to we try to be good neighbors to our neighbors, we can help solve the problem for the properties that are adjacent to the property. Over the last few months since we've been having this conversation with the community, we have been asking the county on your behalf to come on board and let's look at a bigger area to solve the solution. If we're there with construction materials and construction equipment, digging up the roads, digging up the land, you all can come and work with us. And so I want to share a text that I received from Dr. Golson today that has been a conversation that has been going on and is just finalized recently, that the county is willing to address the stormwater management issues while we are doing our work. So instead of us focusing just on the adjacent properties, they're willing to do more while we're there, because it just makes sense to do more work during the same time so that you have one interruption. There have been CIP, from what I understand, capital improvement program projects on the books for a while related to this area. The question is funding and timing and who can do it. And so we are in the conversations are going very well, and they are, meaning the county is willing to address the larger stormwater management issue, and we're willing to address them too. And we're just asking that you all give us an opportunity to help you all address your issues with the stormwater management, and while we're addressing our issue with the overcrowding and aging schools that we're having in this area in our district.
Well, do that mean that you're willing to hold the start date on the project?
No.
Wait. No, we're not to the question and answer yet.
No, I'm not. But we're letting her give us stuff we know about already. We know what the school situation. The problem is that they did not give us proper notification beforehand. Now we're letting her tell us this whole overdue. We're not against education. We're talking about the site that we are in, and are you willing to work? Yeah, you're willing to work with us after everything been on the press, but we asked these questions 3, 4 weeks, 2 months ago. You know what I mean? And so us working with them, all my question is, everything is going to be built on target. That's not help. That is not
so
a problem.
The issue with notification. Okay. And again, I apologize for not having the opportunity to speak with you all in advance. We have been having this conversation formally and officially in our board meetings since 2018. And so these conversations have been had. And like I said, with the constituents in District 9, we've been having these conversations at my coffee, at the school itself, with all 3 schools that are affected by this situation. And so again, I apologize that this community, the Tantalin community, all 3 communities, were not involved in that. Typically in a normal environment where the school is in a community, when we speak to the parents in the community, we're speaking to the neighbors. But it just, in the southern part of the county, we have people that live in the community that have no kids in the school. We are not a transient community like some of the other districts in the county. And so there was just a misstep. The dots weren't being connected with the larger community. And again, I apologize for that. And I take that on as the school board member for not speaking with you all specifically and not reaching out to you all, because I wasn't aware that all of this existed, where it was orderly and coordinated, and all these communities existed. And so when we work with the principals, we send this information out to the parents, and there was lots of involvement around the Accokeek Academy overcrowding and the new K-8 school.
Wow.
Well, Ms. Williams.
Yeah.
Wait. No. Just give a couple of minutes to finish up.
No, but we met with her a month ago. We was on a call a month ago, and we asked her to sign on to a letter. She didn't sign on to the letter. She said she was going to do it, and she just
no.
Go ahead.
Man, you did a good job.
I sent over the letter that I was willing to
when I didn't see
Herb, excuse me, Herb.
I just happened to be going through. I look at the hearings when I get a chance and to see what's happening, and especially with Che and some of the other.
Okay, will you unmute yourself, Ms. Williams, please?
I love technology. And so the letter that I was willing to sign on to, it was not the same letter that Mr. Burroughs wrote. And so I did share information with the school board members, and it was what I shared with you all, that we would look at the other options. We would then bring that information back to you, which we did. And then here we are today. And like Miss Hazel said, it may feel like we're on different sides, but from my perspective, what I understand is the challenge is there is some serious water issues in the southern part of the county. We know that. We've seen how it has affected some of our homeowners with, the erosion and things like that. And if we do not do anything, then nothing changes. I think our staff person, Jason Washington, shared with you the challenge that they have given a solution to for the stormwater situation around the school and how it will affect the adjacent properties. What has occurred since then is that the county is willing to take on this problem, this situation now versus later. And so if nothing is done, nothing will change. And so I think it's always important that we know that we have very smart people that are involved in this, trying to help solve this problem on our side in the immediate area of the school, but the county is willing to work with our people to get this stuff done sooner rather than later, to have a broader effect versus just the properties that are adjacent.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Williams. Now we will open the floor for questions and answers. Who wants to be? Okay, who is that?
Yeah, Mary Downs here.
Okay, Mary.
I'm curious about by the way, I am Mary Downs. I live on Arrow Park Drive. My backyard is on Swan Creek, so I know something about the flooding that comes down because the amount of water that comes through my backyard. But that's not what I want to talk about. I'm curious first, you said that you're talking to people about dealing with the stormwater issues. I contacted 5 different agencies through the EPA because I assumed that the EPA would be people that would be involved. And I got one response back. And what I said was, what is your involvement? Prince George's acknowledges that there's wetlands on the property and the development will include parking and projected cars and 44 school buses and over 600 parents each day. And I went on with that, and the response I got back from EnviroScience, part of the EPA, is EnviroScience is, I quote, is not currently involved in this project and has no knowledge or submitted or approved permits. However, we can help advise on and prepare these permits if needed. If you would like more information, you give the number to call. So at least one of the people involved in storm management, one of the government agencies, doesn't know anything about it. My next comment, when we were talking about traffic, which is the other area that's a concern for so many of the people that live here. There are only, for the people that live in the immediate Tantallon area, going to work in the morning, there are only 2 streets to get out on, Fort Washington and Swan Creek. Pre-COVID, the time to get down Swan Creek to get onto Indian Head Highway and then go north could take, sometimes to go that mile from Swan Creek to Fort Washington to the next road down there, could take 20 minutes. That's to go 1 mile. If you add school buses that are coming in that have to stop and make turns onto Swan Creek, you have the problems of coming in off of the highway that's known as the highway of death because of all the traffic accidents on it. So we have definite issues of traffic for the people trying to get out as well as people trying to get in. So much so that on those trying to get out, there have been people that have already said, if traffic gets worse, I'll have to move. If that happens, then your tax base goes down, then you've got less money to be dealing with these issues. So I think The other thing, and I'll then let the next person have it, on 2 different papers that I've read that have been put out, they talk about, in one case, 23 acres, in another case, 29 acres. When we're talking about a small site, I think we better know how many acres are actually involved in the building of this thing. Because they're also talking about they would have to widen Swan Creek Road, which means it would have to come out of the school part, the school side of it, because the people on the other side have perfectly wonderful homes and they're not about to give up their front yards to widen Swan Creek. I'll leave it up to the next person. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for those questions. I think they're absolutely awesome. And so I'm gonna take off my school board hat and put on my engineer's hat. So you mentioned that the EPA's involvement. The EPA will get involved if we bother wetlands. This project does not plan to touch any of the identified wetlands on the property. When you're looking at the topo, and it shows you where, and it identifies where there are wetlands and where there are not wetlands, you will see that we have mentioned in every meeting that we do not plan to touch those wetland areas. So the federal government involvement is not necessary. The people that we are communicating with are local Prince George's County and state of Maryland reviewers. And so those are the ones that are involved in this process. That if we were going to touch the wetlands area, then the EPA would be involved. And so that's why they are not involved in this process. And you'll see on the drawings, if you go on our website, you'll see on the drawings that the trees will remain in that area where there are wetlands. So we are not touching those at all. And when you talk about the traffic flow, I think it's important that that we look at the direction in which the buses are coming and at the time in which they're coming. And so during the morning, most people are trying to go towards the highway. We're coming in from the highway, and these buses are the ones that are currently going there to Potomac Landing. We saw that there was a challenge and there needed to be more space for the buses and to allow more traffic flow. That is why the side of the street that the school sits on will be widened on that side only. And then they will remark the streets, and you will see a different traffic flow. And so what I can do for you, Ms. Downs, is get you some information on the traffic review process, because as we're going through permitting, that is a part of the review. And so I can get you what the comments were from the county and state agencies so you can have a copy of that.
Hazel.
Wait, no, Herb, no, the other Herb Jones has his hands up.
So I hope that's helpful, Ms. Downs, and I will share it with Ms. Robinson so that we can get it to you, and she can share it with whomever else she wants to share that with.
By the way, I have one more comment. You talked about the reason we didn't know is because none of the students basically lived in the area. Bringing children in from outside the area is not a good thing. People should live and go to school in their communities. When you said you couldn't contact us because most of us didn't have kids, you made the case for the fact that you shouldn't be building a school here. You should build the school where the children are.
So the children do come to live in the community. Most of the kids live in the community. And so that's what I'm saying. When we reach out to the parents, we're reaching all of the community. This community, we did not reach for some reason. I don't know. Maybe
it's because their kids aren't in school there. That's the point.
And so if I can, well, I can't give you their addresses, but I can share with you the number of kids. This school is not a specialty school. So the kids that are in this district live in the boundary area. And so I can share with you what that boundary is. Unlike some other schools, like Accokeek Academy is a tag community. And so there are kids coming from other communities into Accokeek Academy. Potomac Landing is what we call a neighborhood school. And so the kids that go to that school live in the neighborhood. And the buses come through your neighborhood and pick up the kids and take them to that school.
Aren't
Okay,
they
we need to
Aren't they bringing people from Ike Gordine School here? Isn't that
There would be for the K through 8, yes. For the K through 8, yes.
That's not local.
So the kids that go to Isaac Gordine, that boundary will be split. So the ones that are closer to Potomac Landing will be coming to that school. The ones that are not closer to Potomac Landing will go to a different school.
I'll let somebody else have a chance. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Herb Jones, Tantana North.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you and good evening.
Good evening.
Always a pleasure to see you again. Ms. Williams, three quick observations and questions. Will the school board be reaching out to the county leaders with respect to the infrastructure dollars that are coming in from the federal government, using that opportunity to do these upgrades that are so badly needed in the community? That's number one. The money is there, infrastructure. The flooding is an infrastructure issue that hasn't been addressed, based on my limited knowledge, being in the community for 2 years, in 2 or 3 decades. So I think using this opportunity, the school boards might, to encourage the local leadership, county exec Officer Brooke, and even at the state level, to make sure monies are funded toward our area, number one.
Absolutely.
Number two, and this may already been discussed, the buses. My understanding is on any given day, maybe 30 to 40 buses. So my question is, do we have a sense of what the ambient air quality is? I did some research and I understand that Fort Washington does not have any air monitoring data. Why do I say this? These are 35 to 40 buses, diesel fuel. We add already the traffic on 210 and the additional traffic where parents will be dropping off their kids. The air quality in that community, in that immediate community, is going to go down for those individuals walking, those individuals living in the community, et cetera. So that's a very big issue from my perspective, the ambient air quality. What is the existing air quality in the area? And when you add 30 to 40 buses per day, diesel fuel coming in, my assumption is the buses will come in, the drivers will leave and they'll come back. So that's 2 or 3 trips a day, that the air quality and the quality of life in that area will be diminished immediately. Those are my 3 points. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I will definitely get information about the funding of the infrastructure changes that are going to happen outside of the construction zone. And so that isn't coming out of our dollars, that will come from the county's budget. That's not we are not financially responsible for that. We're just going to help facilitate this to happen at the same time. And so on the buses, what I can do for you is, again, that's a part of the review process to getting to permits. We have to provide this information. And it is definitely a concern when you're talking about, you say 30 buses. The question is, what is the delta from what is currently going there versus what will come with it being a K through 8 school? And so that is a part of the review process. And I can get that information to you because those questions would come up and our engineers would have to respond to that. On top of the traffic and how the traffic would flow, not just during construction, but also during the operation of this building. We always have to look at that. The impact of a school looks differently from an impact from a shopping center or an impact of a hotel. And so those questions are asked by the reviewers and our engineers have to respond to that. And so I will get that information. Now, I'm not sure if they would have had a specific question on the air quality. I don't want to say yes or no to that, but they may have. And so let me see what I can get for you so that you can review what is said. And again, I will send it to Ms. Robinson so that she can share it with you all.
Okay, the next question is going to be Herb Jones, Tantana Square.
I don't have so much of a question than comments, because I feel based on what we've been through, this is a waste of time. The decision has already been made. She's made it, and she's going to stick by it. She's not addressing the real issues that what the community has brought up. You have not listened to us at all. No one other than Mr. Burroughs, no one other than Monique Walker, who live in the community, has. We're hearing different stories. We get one story from you. We get another story from Mr. Williams about, I think his name was Williams. Is it Williams?
Washington.
Washington? Yeah. And like I told him, he don't live in Arizona. I don't need to know him. But, people outside of the community, and we've been left in the dark. And I read Ron's email and was surprised to see how long we have been in the dark when you all, the board, had started discussing a K-8 school months ago, but you never actually identified the Southern school till later. And so we didn't find out about that till later. You're going to build a school and you're going to keep the wetlands there, is what you're saying. And so keeping the wetlands there, so the students, it's okay. The students will be prone to run into snakes and other animals that may be coming out there that's been living all along in that particular area, in the community itself. The community is not against building the school. The community is against building the school there. And I think that in the wetlands, I think you need state approval to build around that. So there are so many ifs, ands, and buts that you're putting on the table, and you're going to go back and get stuff and give it to us. I'm not asking you for that. I'm not asking you for that. What I'm asking is to listen to the community. Listen to what we're having to say. And because some who are elected officials making the decisions about where to put a school, their kids go to private schools. They don't even go to Prince George's schools. So you have to look at that. We look at why you're so hell-bent on putting that school there. And I think it's for money. In my understanding, you all sign a contract is that you don't have a certain portion of that done. You're going to have to end up paying like $25 million. You're going to get it done in a year's time. You're going to lose $100 million. That's what we were told. Now, if that's incorrect, tell us. Because if that is correct, somebody signed a bad deal. That was a bad deal. You took us for granted. That's when you kept it quiet. And so now that you're getting this fierce resistance from us, you are going to still move forward. You're just following orders, Ms. Williams, I understand. And you're going to move forward with what you want to do. It don't matter what we say or what we do. It's like you said, Ron, it doesn't matter. But what I'm going to propose to my community, since you guys are coming in my community and making a decision, I'm going to propose to the presidents of these organizations that we form a Talent Political Action Committee where we can go into other areas ourselves and fund and support other people who are running against those particular people. And I want you to get used to the theme we're going to have. We're going to say no to a certain person. No, do not support. So we're going to start, and I'm truly behind this. We were able to form an organization here where we were able to hire lawyers. So we should be able to, with Carter and the rest of them, to form some type of political action group. This is stepping in our territory, stepping in our face, kicking dirt on us. They don't care about anything of what you just said, Ms. Down, about your flooding. They don't care. I saw the map. I saw the map that you're talking about. And the person who signed the map was not the person who came out to review it. We found that astounding. And how could that happen? Mr. Williams was talking about your engineers. Your engineers are the same engineers who approve and work on the houses that are falling off the hills and have to be demolished over here. So why should we trust your engineers? Why should we trust what you're saying without our involvement? I don't.
Herb, you want to wrap it up, please?
Hold a minute, Hazel, because I'm going to be adamantly behind opposing this school where it is, supported some other places, and I'm going to be adamantly supporting and trying to get this political action group and using our friends to come into your territory and to do things you're trying to do to us. That's it.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for your comment. I received your comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next person is Nancy.
Yes. I'd like to ask Ms. Williams, as an engineer, why is
I can't.
We can't hear you. You coming in and out.
Oh dear. Is it better?
Yes.
Why are you not designing with the 200-year storm event, which is more reflective of the rainfall that we get in this area? This is an area that is experiencing intense rainfall. And we have had several 100-year storm events in a year. And your Mr. Jason Washington testified to our meeting last week that they used a 100-year storm event design parameter. So I consider that irresponsible on the part of the school board not to update that design parameter. I happen to be right across the street from the school, where the school will be built. We have a serious stormwater drainage in my backyard. For 34 years, we've had it. We're not even connected to the stormwater system that you're going to connect to for the drainage from the school. So if it's not working for us, how do we know that it even work for you? So I am extremely concerned, you know, let alone flooding. I have enough problems with having a river in my backyard. And so I think the design should be changed. And you also should explain to us what rainfall data you have used in calculating this stormwater management design before anything is done over there in the forested area.
Right. And so I appreciate that. And so when you look at the requirements for designing the flood event, there are certain criteria that's given, and the 100-year storm is that criteria. And so when we went in from, this is what I understand from Mr. Jason Washington, our initial design concept for stormwater management was not accepted. It met the criteria, but it was not accepted. The design that has been approved is something that can well exceed what is being put out. They know the flood, they know the water, the amount of water that flows through there by what is coming through the stormwater now. We also know that there has been damage to the existing stormwater that's there. So not only are we experiencing, just because of the environment that the environmental changes that we're having, we're dealing with more water today than we were 10 years ago. And so not only is it that we're dealing with more water, the infrastructure that exists is damaged. And so if nothing is done, nothing will change. But with us coming in and doing, we're responsible financially for what is adjacent to the property. The county has agreed to work in the same time frame to repair outside of that. And so with that happening, you will see a difference with the water that is coming off of our property and with now that's going to be beyond the boundaries of construction. And so waiting will not change your situation. This has been going on for decades, someone said. And so as an engineer, I would be appalled to have that go on without any changes. We're saying that we're providing a solution that will make a difference in this area, and we know the time frame in which that will occur. And so we're asking that you all allow us to do that, and you all will see the benefit. And that's what we're asking you all to do. And what normally would occur? Someone jumped in.
Is it true
No,
Is it true that you would lose $100 million if you don't have this school built in a year's time? Is it true that you would have lose 25 million if it's not done, or
So
you have to move forward and think? Is it
so
true
there
or not?
is some truth to that statement, but let me explain. We have an $8 billion repair ticket for our schools. So we have enough schools to be repaired and replaced in the system. At this point in time, we have created a checklist of which schools are priority over others. And you can find that on our website. These 6 schools are part of our top priority schools to be replaced. And so moving through that process, moving through the birth of our new school infrastructure, it takes time. First, we have to decide, what is it we're going to do? When are we going to do it? These 6 schools were chosen. These 6 schools became a part of this first tranche of schools to be repaired and replaced. And so that is the contract that we signed. If we take that school out, we could replace it with another school, but that's going to take time for us to get it to the point where we can change it. So yes, there will be a cost and a penalty for us changing the contract with any contract. If you change the contract, there is a cost and a penalty for doing that. So yes, that will occur. And so I don't want you to think that we just chose this school to come in and bother you all. We chose this school because it was one of our top priority schools to be changed because of the infrastructure of that school. And then when you add the impact of the overcrowding in Accokeek, it became even more of a priority. So there is a yes, but response to your question, Mr. Herb.
Okay, let's move. Potomac Landing, when did you decide not to build at Potomac Landing? Up until what time were you considering Potomac Landing?
It never was considered.
The site for the school.
And that's right. Potomac Landing was never considered because it's not large enough. All of that land that Potomac Landing sits on is not Prince George's County Public Schools. Where this property was deeded to the school years ago as a part of the development of the Tantalin. As you all know, when there is a major development, the developer must, make space for a school in that community. And that was done, 50 years ago or so when this community was built. And it's been deeded and owned by the school system for years.
But the land next to Potomac Landing is also parks and recreation. So it is part of the county. I don't understand the logic behind that, saying it's not big enough and it's not part of the county. It is part of the county.
Right.
No, I said it's not owned by the school system.
Yeah, but it's all the county. But Hazel, Ed is waiting to speak. Ed Burroughs is on the line.
Oh, Ed Burroughs, I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah, he said he's on the line. He's on there. Ed, speak up.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and I apologize for being about 25 minutes. I guess I'll center my question for the vice chair really around a meeting that we had earlier this year. If you all remember, on Sunday, March 14th, the Alliance for Greater Accountability and Transparency asked Vice Chair Williams and myself to attend a meeting as it relates to this very topic. During that meeting, Ms. Williams, you told the community that we could explore other options for the site. And based off of that comment, I wrote a letter to the superintendent saying, Madam Superintendent, can we explore other sites? I guess my question for you is, why isn't that the case anymore? That meeting in March was recorded. I went back and listened to it today just to make sure I thoroughly understood what you were saying. It is a consensus of this community that they don't oppose the school whatsoever. It is just this location. And, I think it's a little, and I'm not saying this about you, Madam Vice Chair, but I'm saying this on behalf of government in general is a little arrogant to believe that we can come on and lecture this community about traffic in their neighborhood that they experience every single day, or what's happening in their backyards, or what's happening in their homes. It is very arrogant to think that we could do that. And so we dropped the ball, myself included, on not properly informing this community that this was coming. And so I think we have to take some responsibility and make a better decision. And so in March, you specifically said we can explore other locations. That was a point of consensus between the community, yourself, and myself. And so I'm trying to figure out what changed from March when you made that statement to now.
Well, it didn't change from March to now. And I shared with you all 3 options: the existing location with the park and planning property, and this new location. And I clearly laid that out in the letter that I shared with the community. And that is what we did. And Mr. Jason Washington came back and he explained to you why those options were not possible, and why this option that is on the table is the best possible use for the school. And so I didn't change my thoughts. I explained and I delineated it in the letter, and we have now moved forward. And so I'm not telling them what to do with what is going to occur. I'm letting them know how we can engineer and solve the problem and help improve the problem. And like I've mentioned several times, doing nothing will get us nothing. And so, I think that we have, responded in a way that we're bringing to you all the solutions that we have on the table to help with the community issues that have been going on for decades. And so that is what I am in support of. Now, to deal with the infrastructure, the stormwater, and the traffic, that is something that is outside of the realm of the school system. But even at that meeting in March, I put on the table that we are willing to work with them, with this community, to advocate on their behalf to get the county to move forward more quickly. And that is what I put on the table today. And I shared with them something that I received from Dr. Golson, that the county is willing to work beyond the boundaries of construction to deal with the infrastructure, the stormwater management issues today versus later.
Yeah, but
you may have missed that.
Respectfully, Madam Vice Chair, everything that you're saying is so new and is changing day by day, it feels. And so I think the most appropriate thing to do is to put a pause on this, and so we can all have this conversation, so that we can all be on the same page, so that we can all determine the best location for this school. I mean, I feel like no matter what these residents are saying, it feels like, oh, we're just going to do whatever we want to do no matter what and placate them until the end. I mean, it's what it feels like. And so it is my intention, and I would love your support on this, to add to the next board meeting agenda a resolution that simply directs the superintendent to enter into a negotiation to put a temporary pause on this location.
Let me explain why that.
And to bring that back to the board and to the community, what that negotiation should look like. Because 1 minute I was first told that it would be 100 million. Then I heard 35 million. Then I heard 25 million. So, it does not feel like we are being forthright with what's happening as it relates to this project. And I think this community is asking for that and deserves that.
And so I appreciate your comment. I really do. And I cannot, without more details, we would have to discuss what that delay looks like. Because as you know, every year there is a first day of school. We have to meet certain things in order to open that school the first day of school.
But that school is not going to open but 2-3 years from now.
If we miss the deadline, then we will miss a whole year. That impacts the students that are currently at Potomac Landing, the students that are currently at Accokeek that would have gone to Accokeek, but they're staying in 6th grade in elementary school because they're waiting on the new school to be built. And so I think that it's important that we look at the entire impact of the delay before we make a decision to try to delay the school. And as you know, because you've been on the board for several years, that there is a certain amount of time in which we are allowed to do construction in order to meet that deadline for opening the schools. And so I think that we have to sort of think through this a little bit more with a little bit more detail and a fuller picture so that we can understand the overall impact on the education of the students that we are serving. And I think we're providing solutions and supports to solutions to the issues that the community is having. We're hearing them. We're hearing the issues on traffic, the issues on stormwater, the issues on the environment. But it seems like what it's boiling down to is that you all don't want the school built on the land that is owned and have been owned by the school for several years. And that's another situation that we would have to deal with.
Hazel, this is Anthony Mitchell. Can I please say something?
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Anthony.
Thank you. Ms. Williams, you keep talking about we're not concerned about the education. You're not concerned with the community. You just said that. What you've said is the school board has no jurisdiction over the traffic or the quality of our lives. So why would we even believe anything that you have to say at this point?
Right.
You have Miss Williams, hold on one moment. I've let you speak for almost 20 minutes. You have said you have forgotten all about this community and you have apologized for forgetting. But never once have you said, what does the community want? What we want is that school to be put in another location which will not impact our quality of lives here in Tantalum. And Ms. Williams, and another thing, and if you put that school there, what's the plan for Potomac Landing? What is the plan? And again, Ms. Williams, you don't live here. I am somebody who's lived here for 20 years. And the traffic right now, Ms. Williams, as people are about to return back to work, it is going to be unbearable. And it's 40 buses coming to and fro every day. And it's also the parents that are going to be driving their children to work. So you're painting a real glossy picture that it's going to have no impact on the community. And you are so wrong. And the question I want to ask you, Ms. Williams, would you want the school in your neighborhood?
Yes. No,
you wouldn't.
I didn't say yes, but the answer is yes. Someone else answered yes. And so let me address the biggest response that I heard, that you don't want the school there. What we've been hearing, Mr. Mitchell, is that there is water, there are the trees, there is the traffic. But this is the very first time that I've heard someone say, do not put the school in my backyard.
Oh, that's not true.
That is what I'm hearing.
Nope, Miss Williams. Miss Williams.
One at a time.
Miss Williams.
Are you serious, lady?
Hazel, can I take this? Let me take.
Okay, I muted everyone.
Hazel, let me take this.
Now for you? Okay.
Okay, Miss Williams, I did not say I don't want the school in my neighborhood. I never said that. And as someone who I am a volunteer at Turner Elementary in Southeast DC. So don't give me that, I don't want it in my backyard. What I want, Ms. Williams, as a taxpayer, okay, is I want you to put the school at Potomac Landing where it is right now. And when you talk about the $25 million shortfall that the school board is going to have to come up with, guess what? Guess who's going to pay for that? That money comes out of my pocket. I am single. I don't have any children. Okay, so Ms. Williams, this project needs to be paused, and you know it. You know it. And Mr. Burroughs, thank you, Mr. Burroughs, for speaking up, because Ms. Williams, this is wrong. Angela, also Brooks, she knows it's wrong, which is why she can't show her face. And Ms. Williams, and I, just like Mr. Herb said about the PAC, I know exactly when you're going to be up for re-election. So guess what?
Okay, so you don't have a question no more, Anthony.
No, I just had a comment.
Okay, let's go to a real question. Sandra Hall had her hand.
Yes.
Then we're going to go to,
thank you.
Carter has a question too. Okay, go ahead.
Right, I don't think Mr. Burroughs was finished though, Hazel. You know, was he finished?
Yes, he was finished.
Burroughs said he was finished?
Tony was finished.
No, I'm talking about Ed Burroughs.
Oh, Mr. Burroughs, we don't know. He was driving and
there you go. Speak to.
There he's going in and out. He's being cut in and out. We can't hear him anyway.
Okay. I just wanted to build some consensus with the vice chair. It sounds like you are willing to explore what it would look like to put a pause on this, is what I was hearing you describe. Is that correct?
No.
Okay, I thought you were saying that you need to understand.
No, what I said is you want to put a pause on it by June 24th. There are a number of things that we have to consider before putting up a proposal just to say pause. There are a number of impacts that we have to deal with as the board who's responsible for the school system's fiduciaries, the funding that comes to the school. We need to be very clear on the impact of that, the impact on the students that are still in elementary for 5th grade, how long that will occur with them. If we miss this window, what happens?
Where they return to go after school. So if you are a student that was on the wedding, say that a student that I was reading, say that
I can't hear him.
We can't hear you, Mr. Williams, Mr. Burroughs. Sorry.
Okay. So, I mean, long story short, because I feel like I understand my answer. There is nothing that I could do or this community could do to have you support putting a pause in this project. And I guess that's my question. Is there anything that I can do or this community can do or say, articulate, explain that would have you support putting a pause in this project?
Now you're putting me on the spot, because I know that whenever someone throws a question at me that I haven't had an opportunity to think through, that I have to say no. But what I'm saying is that we have to look at all of the issues and concerns that happens if we put this on pause. We've been talking about this for years, and you've been involved in the conversation, and this period of this year in 2021 is the first time I'm hearing about a pause. And so I think that it's important that we look at all of the issues and concerns that impact the school if we put it on pause. Not just the school, but the students that only have 1 year in 5th grade or 1 year in 6th grade. We need to make sure that we reduce that time frame. And the advantage of the delivery method that we're using is that we're getting these schools built quickly. And you understand the issue that we're having with schools, because there are a number of schools that had to be closed in your district because of heating and cooling. And so it's a bigger issue. And we have been trying to respond to the issues and concerns around the flooding, the traffic, the trees, and the impact on the community. Pausing that was not a part of the solution in my mind. We need to do things in a certain way, in a certain time frame, and that is what I'm trying to facilitate by responding to the issues of stormwater, traffic, trees, and things like that. We're trying to get to a solution of the problems that are being put forth. Now, to put it in a different location, that would be very costly. We got to find another location. We have to possibly purchase another location to service the students in this area. We have a property that is owned by Prince George's County Public Schools that we're able to build on. And so that, I think that we need a larger conversation than to sit here and promise something that may not ever occur, that may not ever be to our advantage. And so I would have to think on that.
No, I appreciate that. I guess I just want to know what needs to happen to have this conversation. Because when we went before this group back in March, we had the conversation then. We've been having it all the time since then. So what do you need from us in order for all of us to have that conversation about the pause? Like, what data do you need? What information do you need? What studies do you need? I mean, how can we support you in getting what you need so that you could consider supporting the pause?
I would need to know, what is the financial impact on this contract? What is the impact on the students that now have to stay in sixth grade and elementary for how long? What does that look like for those kids that go to Accokeek after they leave sixth grade? The issue is that we, not just the old buildings, we have to remember that Accokeek is overcrowded. Our desire is to remove some of those kids and bring them to, that would normally, we have kids that go to Potomac Landing, they go to Accokeek for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Currently, they stay in Potomac Landing for 6th grade. This is our first year of doing that. We will have to continue that for a longer period. And then in 7th grade, they go to Accokeek Academy, which means we're still adding more students to Accokeek Academy. If we delay that, the size of that school does not decrease as we planned for that school. So we have to look at this impact over time. We have to look at what happens if we do not find a property that is affordable and available in this southern part of the county that's going to be serving Isaac Gordine, which you know is a school that is in very bad disrepair. And so there is a large impact that we're talking about when it is impacting our students, which is our focus. How does that impact them? What happens to Isaac Gordine if we have kids still in the school for 5, 6 more years? So I need to be looking at that. We need to answer those questions.
A couple of statements you made that was inaccurate. One,
Herb, you out of turn. We got other people got their hands raised. Okay,
Mr. Herb, we can set up a meeting to have a one-on-one call, Mr. Herb, if you like.
Okay, we're gonna go to Sandra.
Oh, that's okay. I'm good. Someone else can go. Jody or Marcy. Someone else can go. Thanks.
Carter, Mr. McGuthrie.
Yes, this is Darius Banks and Carter. Just let me. I generally don't speak up much, but I need to speak up to this. I appreciate everything that has been said, and I understand where you're coming from. I'm a senior executive for the federal government. What you're telling me, reading through the bluster, and just getting through it, and no disrespect to you, ma'am, is that you're not going to do anything. We're going to get a school there. It's your prerogative to do that. Any change in that is going to be a financial outlay, which you're not willing to do. I get that. I also get that you do not have a concern for the impact and implementation of that school. Your only concern is to make sure that school gets built on time, given the whatever constraints that have been placed upon you. Everything that has been said for the last 20, 30 hours really doesn't surmount to anything because you're going to do it. Mr. Burroughs has asked you multiple times, is there anything that you're willing to do to postpone this? It is apparent. I sit in meetings at the federal government all day. I hear what you're saying, and the tail end of it is that you're not going to do anything. So at this point, it's just I think someone said creating some type of political action. I think that's the only thing we can do at this point. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, let's go to Carolyn Carter.
Oh, go ahead. Hello?
Hello, go ahead. We can hear you.
Ms. Williams, I've been listening to the meeting, and I've been living here 30 some years. And they have tried to put that same school over there for 30 some years. We had the same problem: water, traffic, climate, and everything. And I heard you say tonight that you didn't know, you weren't aware that we didn't want that school there. That's not true, ma'am. We have stressed over and over and over again. We do not want that school there. We have given all kinds of reasons, and it appears we're going to pay taxes for this, but it appears that you don't understand that it's going to hurt us, not the children or anybody else. It's going to hurt our community. And it's not fair that we have to pay the taxes, and you sit there telling us now that if we don't let the school come, you're not going to help us to get the water fixed. That is not fair, ma'am. And you need to carry it back and tell them that we are very unhappy about this situation. We don't want it. Thank you so much.
So I just want to make sure that I am very, that what I'm sharing is we have been responding to the water issue, the traffic issue, and we have definitely provided solutions. And so when I guess it was some time ago where another school was proposed there, and I wasn't on the school board then, and so I'm not familiar with that that scenario. But now I know that we have what I believe brought solutions to the issues with the water and sewer. And you said that you stopped the school there 30 years ago or some time ago, but you've lived there 30 years. And the water situation still exists, and it has gotten worse. And so what I'm saying is that by us bringing in infrastructure to help divert the water away from your properties and put it into the infrastructure will help solve the water concern. And so we see that nothing had occurred, so nothing has changed. And what we're saying, while we're there, we will help the residents that are adjacent to, and we've also worked with the county to take a broader view of this and help solve this in a broader sense. And so the takeaway that I'm saying, that I'm hearing is the solution is not enough. The traffic issues are still going to be there, and we're saying that we're going to improve them. But you're not believing what we would say, and I can't make you think differently. I can only provide you with the information, and that's what I'm providing you with, is the information that we were hoping would solve. We're providing you with information with what we hope would give you a solution to the problem. And so, but you're saying that you just don't want the school there. Work there on that site is not something that you could ever support. And so that's what I'm hearing.
Okay, let's move on. Marcy, do you still have a question? Your hand's been up a while.
Yes, thank you. Just a quick thing. I think one of the problems that I'm having is I understand that you're coming in with solutions. I think one of the things is we're not fully understanding specifically what those solutions are. I know you said that the county is going to come in and look at the broader picture of getting things fixed, where they have allowed us to live this way for several years without fixing the storm drain. I think one of the reasons that we need a pause is because of that. If the county is going to do it, when are they going to do it? Because if you go ahead and you build a school without the county doing anything to help us, how does that affect us?
And so earlier in the conversation, I mentioned that we have been in communication with the county, advocating on your behalf for them to come in and do the work during the same time that we're tearing up the roads and we're putting in new infrastructure. So we're saying that they are coming in at the same time, not a future, not doing a study and putting it on the shelf and coming back and doing it later. They have agreed that they will work on this at the same time as we're in there impacting the community. So we're not just talking about our limits of construction. We're talking about a broader sense on the stormwater management issues.
No, I know, I understand that, but I think have we had, I don't know, Hazel, has anybody from the county come back and said, okay, this is our plan, and this is where we plan to do our construction? You know, have they laid out that plan, ma'am, or do you know if they laid out that plan and what their timeline is?
So let me see what I could get to you in writing from the county, and I will share that with Ms. Robinson.
Okay, and then as far as the traffic is concerned, you know, we sort of glossed over the traffic as whereas you're going to open and widen the side that the school is on, but what's going to happen with the traffic circle? Is it still going to be a traffic circle there where it's very dangerous when we're out there? Is there going to be a stoplight there? And also thinking about, yes, we have the buses coming in, but the buses coming in still going to have to go out. Parents that come in are still going to have to go out. And they're not going to be sitting there, you know, talking 20, 30 minutes in the parking lot. It's a matter of going in, dropping the student off, turning around, and coming back out. And no one seems to think, and I spoke about this before, that traffic light to leave off of Swan Creek or Livingston Road or all the perpendicular streets that go into 210, that light is short. You might get 1 or 2 cars out to traverse onto 210 to get down 210 to go to the highway. That light is very short. So I don't know if anybody's looking at that as well. So we hear that the traffic is taken care of, but I'm not fully understanding how that traffic is taken care of.
So let me, in the responses that I'm going to get to Ms. Robinson, I will include what that intersection will look like. I'm not sure if there will be a change at the circle, if it's going to remain a circle or if it will become a 4-way, but let me get to you what they have been they have submitted for review and approval, and if it's approved, then you will see what the final decision is. Let me get that to you.
Okay, Carter, you still gonna be Carter, then Ron. Who? I
have a question too. Charlene,
okay.
A quick one.
Okay, Carter, you on mute.
I yield my time to Ron Weiss, please.
Okay, Ron.
You know, you said you weren't here back in 2005 when we protested a high school at that property.
Yeah, I wasn't a school board member.
Right. Well, we were here. We were here. Okay, and we raised our voices. We went through basically the same thing we're going through right now. And back then, our voices were heard, and the school was stopped. Now, we weren't given the opportunity to be heard before this decision was made. And now, after the fact, we're raising our voices. You're not hearing us. You're not keeping us in the loop. You get a text message from the CEO advising you of things we haven't heard of, okay? We're out in left field here trying to keep our livelihoods and our homes and our families together, not have to bail out our basements. And you're asking us to trust you You're looking out for us. You know, why should we trust you? You haven't trusted us. You haven't listened to us. You know, I don't understand how you can expect all the people who live here that you've never talked to before, that you've slipped this through the system somehow without letting us know. And we're supposed to trust you that you're going to take care of all these problems that haven't been taken care of. Yet we have a stormwater problem, and you're going to fix it by putting a school there. I don't believe that. You know, you're going to fix a part. Maybe you'll fix a part of the stormwater problem. You're not going to fix our stormwater problem. You're going to fix your stormwater problem. We just don't get the respect that we deserve as taxpayers, as constituents, as longtime residents of this area who have a vested interest in keeping our community nice and livable. You don't care. You care about, you know, we care about our kids, our students. We want a good school for them, but you're going to make our lives miserable doing it. I can't believe that's the only way you can do it, by putting that school there. You tell me you can't. We the taxpayers own Potomac Landing. We the taxpayers own the property next to it. That's a park and planning thing. We own it. Mm-hmm. And you're telling me that you can't make a trade between two parts of the government so that you can build a bigger school at Potomac Landing? That doesn't make sense. I bet you haven't even tried.
But that was discussed in the presentation by Jason Washington. We looked at absorbing that property. That site still was not large enough. It was not large enough. And so we did explore that. And I can send you the results of that study and what we are required, the criteria that we're required to meet. I can send you that information. It wasn't just oh, we're not going to do that. That we looked at, if we were to absorb the park and planning property, the site still was not big enough.
It's 22 acres, the total. You've got 10 acres of Potomac Landing and I think 12 acres out in the park. That's 22 versus 24 acres. You know, I don't, and the 24 acres that you have has a large part of it you can't use because of the wetlands. I bet there's more buildable property on the combined Potomac Landing and Park and Planning property than you have where you're trying to build a school. I just don't believe what you're telling me.
Okay, let's move on. Miss Mike Williams?
Yes.
No, she has a question. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Hi, this is Angela Malone, and I'm here with my husband, Eric Williams. Miss Williams, I do believe you care. You wouldn't be on the school board if you didn't. But I feel you're being so hurtful, and not just you. I know you're representing the school board, but you must want a win-win as well. And given the fact that at the start of this conversation, you acknowledged that you had not communicated with so many of us, we wouldn't be on this call if we didn't care. Mm-hmm. We're the kind of community that we're often hearing you want replicated. People who are concerned. 2 weeks ago, approximately 80 of us stayed on a 10-hour call with the Planning Commission. 10 hours. Mm-hmm. It started at 10 a.m. Mm-hmm. I think we disconnected at 9. We did that because we care about our children and our communities. Mm-hmm. I go to Virginia a lot for goods and services, and I'm driving around thinking, why don't we have this here? You know, why don't we have nice woodland areas where we can have a walking trail? Why is it they get things that we don't? I know you care just as much as we do, but it just somehow seems there's a disconnect. I don't know if it's a power struggle with the people in charge, but come on, we want to help. Give us the opportunity to help. You know, you said the communication was not there. I just feel that even if we are pressed to get a good school in a short amount of time, let's look at the greater good. Wouldn't it be wonderful for people to brag about Prince George's County as they once did, saying, you know what, this is the kind of community where there was a misstep, there was some miscommunication, but our leadership so respected the fact that this community took their own time, took their own money, really tried to generate interest and information. Wouldn't it be a credit to you and all of the others in charge if the word could go out that, wow, this community came out, we realized we made a misstep, but we have an opportunity to fix it so that there's a win-win for everyone. I just feel that in your heart, you want us all to feel good, but that doesn't happen when someone just keeps telling you, this is the best we can do. Sorry we missed out on you. This is the best we can do. Please hear us. Just a pause for a better discussion, a proper discussion. No more of this, well, we'll do this, we'll do that, but not hearing what we're saying we want to do, we'd like to do with you. That's all I want to say, because I just feel you care.
Thank you. And as you know, I truly want you to believe, even if Mr. Ron doesn't want to, that I do truly care. And every time we have these conversations, I go back and I investigate and I ask questions. And so the solutions that we have been presenting were solutions to the issues and concerns that we have, that I heard from you all.
But the main concern is we never got an opportunity to sit down with you all. This is all coming after the fact. That's the number one issue. We never got a chance as a community to do what
what would you say if we could put a time frame on the pause? What is that time frame?
Well, my question is, would that even be, if we had a pause, would a consideration of another location even be considered? Or is it like Herb said, is this all just for naught? I mean, I don't want to pause to be, I don't want to be pacified.
Right, and I don't want to put a pause on there and then we're pausing without any criteria. If we put a pause and then we say, you know, we never come back to this, we're going to be then impacting the students that, not just in Potomac Landing, but the other students. And so I know that there is a limitation on the time if we all agree or we come to the realization that this is the best solution for a school in the southern part of the county that's on this side of the southern part of the county. You know, to consider another location, we'd have to find that location. We have to determine if it's suitable to build. We'd have to have this conversation also with the community that will be impacted.
You guys are smart. We're smart. We can do it. We can do it fast. Just give us the opportunity.
And
There's
so
some smart people out here.
And so let me do this. I'm going to go back and speak with those that have this time frame, the schedule, and all of the information, the details that I don't have, meaning student impact, building impact, cost impact, timing impact, and see. But the only thing is that we have, our current schedule is we're supposed to start July 6th. That is the time in which we're supposed to start. And so I need to go back and tomorrow ask those questions. And that's what I will do, is I will ask. I cannot promise that a pause is the solution, but I can ask what the impact of it is. And then I can begin to determine, you know, is that something that we can do? And is that something and so that's what I can do. I can't say that I'm going to take a pause, you know, just to take a pause to have you all like me at the end of this call. I would never do that. That would be false advertising to say, oh yeah, I agree to pause.
Excuse me, Miss Williams. Excuse me, Miss Williams. When you asked a great question about how long would the pause take. This is Miss Hall. You know, when you look at the other properties or the possibility of other sites, that could be the timing of the pause. Looking where, get your real estate people to find another location that's feasible, that won't cost us any more monies, that have already been expended, that's already been spoken for or earmarked. That's the pause time frame that I would suggest.
And so looking is one thing, finding a property is another thing, and then negotiating the price, and all of those things have to come into play. It's not just about us, you know, finding a location. If we don't own it, then we have to go into the acquisition of that property. We have to go through the environmental review for that property. There are a number of things that have to occur. And so I think the first step is understanding what the impacts are.
What's going on?
And how they can, how much time do we have before we have that go, no go conversation. And so, like I mentioned, our current schedule is July 6th. And so we have to, tomorrow I'm going to go in and ask those questions. What are the impacts? And what is our go, no go time frame? And then that could be, if it's feasible, and I'm not saying that it will be, then that would be the time frame for our pause, because at some point we have to say go or no go on this site. And so, and we have to remember our locations are limited to the students that we're trying to serve. So the whole county isn't open for us. We're talking about serving students in a certain area. So, but I will go in tomorrow and ask, you know, those questions.
Can I ask a quick question now?
Okay, Charlene, go ahead.
Okay. Is school going to be in full session in the fall?
Yes. So we have, we plan to be 5 days a week in the school building. What we are offering is we have limited seats for students who thrived in the pandemic. They can attend what we call our virtual school. So if a student is at Friendly High School, but they really did well in virtual school and their parents agree that they should continue in virtual school, we have that option with limited seats. The application is going to open for the middle and high school students in the next 2 weeks, I believe. Now, elementary students, because the vaccine isn't available for students under 12, they have the ability to continue a virtual solution because they do not have the vaccine. Should the vaccine become available within our first quarter, then those kids will have the opportunity to come back to school starting in the new year, in January. If the vaccine does not become available, then they will have the opportunity, those kids whose parents chose to continue virtual school in elementary, they have the opportunity to continue the rest of the year virtual. And so all of that information, I believe, is available on the website, but we do plan to be 5 days a week in person in the school building in September.
Okay, so in other words, then your schools won't be overcrowded because a lot of parents are not going to let their kids go to school without having the vaccine. And once it does come available, some people still not going to get it, and they're gonna probably keep their kids home. So you're not going to have the issue of overcrowding come fall.
That's only at the elementary level. The high school level, there's a limited number of seats, and I want to say it's only 700. We have 134,000 students. And so the high school and middle school level, there are only 700 seats that are going to be available for the virtual option. The elementary school students, the kids that are under 12, we understand that they will have something available, but the timing of when it occurs is what's up for question. But
that's not before the 12-year-olds and above. That's
the CDC is saying that we should have something available in the fall.
Okay, I haven't heard that. I've got a elementary school grandson, and I haven't heard that. I've been listening, and they're trying to get things available for the 12-year-olds and above. That it means, it still means that your schools are not going to be overcrowded for some time. So there's your pause right there. There's your pause to let us come together like we have been asking as a community, along with the school board and whoever makes the decisions, for us to sit down and talk about it, because I believe Ron just gave you a solution. If the acreage that you're looking to use across the street is almost the same as down there at the Potomac Landing Elementary, I don't see what the problem is. And then you're saying it sounds like you're accommodating more of the kids as at Akakeek than you are on this side, because it doesn't sound like the overcrowded is on this side.
Well, Akakeek is a K-8 school. So the students that attend Potomac Landing go to Akakeek Academy for their middle school level. And so by keeping those kids in the new K-8 school, that reduces the number of students that are in Akakeek Academy. Even though the school is in Akakeek, the middle school for Potomac Landing, where they matriculate to, is Akakeek Academy.
Yeah, I know. I had a grandchild that attended that school. She graduated from Potomac Landing, and then she went to Akakeek Academy for a short period of time. So yeah, I know about it. And it's a good distance drive from here over there. But it sounds more like the problem is over there. And then if I understand well, if I can remember well, that you have 12, is it 12 trailers or 10 trailers over there?
There's several trailers over there.
Which means you have space. You have space to build, to expand at that school and to build up. So I don't see why you don't consider that school also.
Thank you.
Okay, we got to move on.
I'm finished.
This person had their hand up, got the email up, Victor, VTORRobel@gmail.com.
Yes, this is Vivian Bell.
Okay.
And hi, everybody. And Ms. Williams, thank you so much. My husband and I, William Bell, are relatively new to the community from Virginia. So we've kind of try to have a panoramic view, getting informed. We've been involved in all the meetings, including the 10-hour marathon. And what I am hearing, or what we're hearing, is, yes, sorry, we didn't include you. These are the questions you have. In the board meeting, there was an acknowledgement that the community, since the community got involved, a lot of the issues that you were not aware, then there were comments and they got started to be addressed. Quite honestly, the responses we've gotten are piecemeal. It's kind of like getting kind of an informed response, but not thinking it through. Let me give the example of the water management. Okay, so there was a nice presentation of the school that is going to be addressed. Okay, that's there in the site. And now you're saying, well, we've expanded to the county to help the properties around. Okay, the water, the system that is outdated, that is known and have issues, needs to go through residential properties, there's the utilities, there's commercial, there's a golf course, and it comes into the actual tributary of the Potomac, Swan Creek. This whole area, including Fort Washington, the actual fort, is part of the critical areas of the Chesapeake Bay Act. And it doesn't seem like anybody has been looking at that. That's just an example. Let me give another example of the traffic. We in the Tantalon community meeting attended by more than 100 people that stayed for a long time with Mr. Washington, and we're really grateful that he came. When we presented a pre-COVID study of Maryland roads and show that one of the most congested is the intersection of 210 and Swan Creek, his response was, we don't deal with that.
That's right.
So we got the environment, the water management, and as an engineer, you must know that all these pieces, these modules need to work together. So having a response to a piecemeal, it doesn't assist to make. And I hear you. I hear your passion about the school, about the kids. And I think the board is very well served with your passion. I hope that you hear as part of this community and the kids and an advocate for them, our advocacy of our own community.
Absolutely.
And our money.
Really do.
And our monies and our votes.
And I really do appreciate that comment because I think it's very pertinent. And so I think that what I'm going to do is to share with you, with Ms. Robinson, all of the review comments that occur when something is being developed. The responses that we're giving to you are the responses that we pull out of this document, the review process. There is lots of things that are reviewed to make sure that we are building, and we're building a building that it improves the community that it comes in. And so we're just sharing with you those comments that are pertinent to your questions. And so you will see that it's not being done piecemeal. You're just getting you're getting the information pulled out of a larger document that's responding to the questions and concerns that are brought forward. So what I'll do is I will share with, I'll get a copy of all of the review comments and questions so that you all can see that it's not being piecemeal together. And there is a limitation on what we can modify because there's limits to the construction impact of this building. And we have been advocating on your behalf to go beyond that because we know that there is a larger concern from the community. And so definitely, I definitely hear what you all are saying and taking it all in. And I'm thinking through how do we get to that win-win, as Ms. McWilliams had mentioned. How do we do that? And that is by me going back and asking these questions on what is the impact and what is the time frame for the go, no go scenario. We need to know that.
Yeah, but you keep talking about the impact to the kids, and I think we hear you, and but the impact to our community in that we're not hearing, we hear the words, we don't hear the actions, we don't hear the plans. You miss telling us the community, you miss the environmental side, you've missed the traffic things, you've even missed some of the commitments to projects across the river, like the view shed. That can be controversial, but these are partners in the community that you have missed.
And so that's what I want to share with you is the complete review comments and questions so that you can see that a number of these questions that you're just hearing about now have been asked and answered, and changes have been made accordingly.
In paper, I mean, they look really pretty and you kill a lot of trees. But I'm not seeing, I mean, you have to go through the whole, like the watershed, just look at it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not being addressed. It is piecemeal, and I am so sorry that I got to keep going back to I mean, yeah, there are reports, there are things, but even in the communication, you're saying you're out of luck. We didn't tell you, but we're moving forward in the same place. We're not even considering another site. That's what we're hearing.
Okay, we need to move on because we're going to end this at 9 o'clock. Okay. Let's see.
Yeah, I just have one question. I have one question. I promise. Okay, one quick. And
go ahead.
Okay. And Ms. Williams, again, thank you for listening. But I think Ron Weiss came up with a solution. And you said you're going to go back and talk to your folks. And I would like you to consider going back and advocating on our behalf. The reason I say that, because you made it clear to me almost a month and a half ago, Herb, we dropped the ball on the engagement. That's what you said to me. No doubt about it. We dropped the ball because in your report, it says robust community engagement, which you and I know did not happen. That's a fact. Given that fact, the community wants a pause. One, because of that, we didn't have that robust education that was outlined in you all's plan. Okay, because whether we have kids in school or not, the bill is the same to everybody. Two, Ron talked about the acreage. And you're an engineer, Ms. Williams. We're talking about 24 acres versus 22. We can re-engineer that. We can re-engineer that to fit. That's not a huge undertaking. So Potomac Landing, for me, becomes the focus now. If that is the difference, that's where we need to focus. That's where we need to pause so we can have in-depth conversations, face-to-face, not paper, but face-to-face with those folks from DPA, the Department of Environment, Public Works, all in the same room, folks from the community, and talking about this other option. Because if that is the only issue by 2 acres, we should be able to re-engineer that and make that fit. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Okay, let's move on to Ike. Who's on? You're on mute.
Hi, thanks to my neighbors. It's been fantastic. I'll go through this really fast. It sounds like we've been focusing on the impact to the contract instead of the impact to the community. You heard that over and over, Ms. Williams. I appreciate you being here. But this impact to the community is long-term, long-term. You know, there was undeveloped land that was considered. And as we heard from Ron, this was done in 2005. And I have a hard time believing that record is not somewhere in the boarded and can't be seen. Again, the 22 acres versus 24 is a solution, but I think there's other solutions. And we're willing to work with you to find those other solutions. And it sounds like there's a question here, like you're depending on the county to do a lot of the infrastructure issues. I don't know if that's true or not. If you can answer that, it'd be great. I am fully aware that you haven't addressed the roads correctly. I live on Fort Washington and I have another house on Warburton. And by the way, we've lived here for 53 years. I know that hasn't been addressed correctly. And just widening Swan Creek, I don't think that's the solution. So the accident, the speeding, and the traffic has not been addressed along with the environment. I think you owe us some more answers, and a pause would help us get those answers. The community is going to be impacted for long term, so we need those answers. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And let me answer the one question about relying on the county for the infrastructure. It is the county's responsibility for the infrastructure outside of our limits of disturbance, our limits of construction. And so what we've asked the county to do, and they are in agreement, is to come in and do their portion of the work, their responsibility of the work while we're there. And so that we will handle what we impact. The county will handle their responsibility for the other infrastructure pieces. And so the re-engineering of the 22 versus 24 or whatever it is, I never like to quote numbers because I don't know what they are specifically, because as an engineer, you know, we deal with numbers all the time. And so it's not about the redesigning a building. We know that we can put a huge building on a small piece of property if it's allowed. We have other criteria that we're trying to meet because we're an educational facility. So it's not that it's not possible. The question is it allowable? And the response that we receive, and Jason Washington shared that with this community, is that that property is not large enough. We can build this size building on 1 acre, but it's going to be really tall. But a school facility has other criteria that it must meet, and we are not meeting the criteria that's placed upon us by the authorities that tell us what to do. And so it's not about re-engineering that, it's about meeting the criteria that we have to meet as a local educational facility.
We cut this off now. We've had enough of this.
You're on mute, Ms. Robinson. You're on mute.
You're on mute, Hazel.
Hazel.
Okay, thank you.
Hazel, I would like to ask Miss Williams, first of all, I'd like to know how much of the overcrowding at Accokeek Academy is with children who live in Virginia but use addresses in the Accokeek area to get their kids into the school. I understand that's quite a sizable percentage.
I can't answer that question, but I think it's a feather in our cap if we have kids coming from Virginia wanting to come to Accokeek Academy
that undermines,
in Prince George's County.
Are you kidding me? That undermines your challenge
as to the number.
Your statement that Accokeek is overcrowded and we've got to educate Virginia children also and have our lives impacted because Accokeek Academy has not adequately enforced the students and the overcrowding.
Okay. So I can't answer the number of students but that is something that we have been looking into for years.
The second thing that I would suggest you strongly consider is reducing the size of the K through 8 school. 2,000 students is too large for that age group. I believe in neighborhood schools also. And I think Potomac Landing could be built for 1,000 students and Isaac Gordine could be built for 1,000 students. There you have your 2,000 students and you've redeveloped existing school site. I think parents would be happier with those solutions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hazel, closing.
Oh yeah, I know about that.
Yeah, I think that we've had enough of this, and we're not going anywhere. As Ron has said, I think Ms. McWilliams actually put everything in perspective of what we are going through, and I think Mrs. Williams knows that they have totally ignored us and still doing it, still haven't addressed a number of the questions. I find that there have been a lot of contradictions, not only in what was said before, but what was also said tonight. And I know that personally, when we spoke before to you, Mrs. Williams, I told you that I mentioned to you that the community was against the school and putting the school there. I prefaced it by saying we're not against building schools, we're against building the schools here. And I gave you all the reasons because we had sought information as you have requested from county officials. We dealt with DPI, we dealt with most of the approving authorities within the county. And that's the reason we were able to see some of the information that you're referring to. I think that the county, or you and your representatives on that county board, are just bent on putting that school there for some reason and not listening to us. And that's what's so disheartening about this whole thing. And I don't think that everyone on here would not be saying the same thing if they didn't feel truly that's what we want to happen. So in terms of pause, I don't know if you received Councilwoman Monique Walker's letter, which talks about the pause. I think Board Member Burroughs wrote a letter, talked about the pause. I remember the last conversation we had, you even talked about the pause, and you and Mr. Burroughs were supposed to share a letter and comments that was supposedly to be shared with us. We received Mr. Burroughs' letter, we received your letter, but what you said to us and what was in the letter was totally different.
Can you wrap it up?
I appreciate you coming, Miss Williams, and I want to be as respectful as I possibly can, and I truly am respectful. And for you to, to come into this lion's den and go through this, but there is something that is not right. And what we're trying to do is make it right. So thank you again. Please, we'll continue to fight this.
Thank you, Ms. Williams, for your time. Just spending 2 hours with us to shed some more light. Yeah, some of us do not like your answers, but they're your answers. So, well, but we hope to continue the dialogue. We look forward to the information you're going to share with me, to share with the community. We do look, we are hopeful that you can see where we can make a pause that's reasonable to all parties, but we got to make a change.
Thank you so much for inviting me. And these are not easy conversations. It's not an easy conversation to have a conversation with parents who are in classrooms and trailers and classrooms with 30 and 35 students. And so, we may not agree, but I like the fact that we continue to communicate, and that's important because I have taken like pages and pages of notes just so that I can be responsive and I hear you. And so I thank you, Ms. Robinson, for the invitation. I so appreciate it. And I hope everyone has a great evening. And please be careful because schools are out. Our students are out of school. And so we want to keep them safe. So thank you so much. And I look forward to talking to you all again soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Thank you.